Okay. I'll call the meeting to order then at 7:02. Welcome to the 70th session of council this Monday evening on August 8th, 2022. This meeting is in-person meetings have resumed with a hybrid format option where members of council and the public can join electronically. So please note that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available on the township website. All rules apply to the meeting as if everyone is attending in person, and if there is a problem with the technology impacting the proceedings of the meeting may be recessed at the direction of the deputy mayor to confirm that the electronic format is performing effectively before proceeding further with the agenda. In the event of connection or service disruption to those attending electronically, the chair may recess the meeting to allow for attempts to reconnect. So council met at 6 o'clock for a closed session item pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act. And we suspended the closed session, and after the open session, we will be going back into closed. So there is nothing to rise in the court. So at this time, we will play the national anthem and give the land acknowledgement. So coming up on the screen momentarily. We are being hosted on ancestral lands. Of the Haudenosaunee, Mississauga, and other First Nations from across this vast land, who also makes this place home. The lands we are on today are recognized in the two-row wampum, Dish with One Spoon Treaty, Treaty 27, and the proper purpose. The next item up is the process for appointing current as a head of council, so I will be vacating the seat while this happens.
Nominations have been closed. Each mover and seconder of a nomination and each nominee shall, prior to the vote being taken, be permitted to speak for not more than 5 minutes. When more than one nominee stands for appointment, a vote shall be taken. To be appointed, a nominee shall obtain a vote of the majority of the members present and voting, i.e. if all 6 members were present, 4 votes would be required. Sorry, do you wish to let your name stand, Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Are there other nominations for the position? Calling twice, any other nominations? And calling 3 times, any other nominations? Okay, so we will, after the nomination, sorry, when there are no further nominations, the presiding officer shall call for a motion declaring nominations closed. Could I have a motion? Councillor Bluebird, seconded by Councillor Porter. So so the mover and seconder still have a chance if they want to make a 5-minute speech, and the nominee if they so wish.
I think the deputy mayor has been functioning in this role for some time now, with great success, and I'm sure my colleagues would agree that it's a no-brainer.
Okay, so I guess we'll just call for that vote. Typically, I call for a vote on the one nominee then for deputy mayor. All in favor? It's carried. And I will hand the chair back to now Mayor Picador.
Continue the music chair. Just need to pull myself back. Thank you, everyone. This might be slightly out of order, but it's an honor to be nominated. So the next item on the agenda is a vacancy of a position of council, which with regard to the deputy mayor's position that I just vacated. We have a report before us. Is there anything to add to the report from staff? Seeing none. Council, any questions? This triggered why I was council, any questions for staff? Seeing none. Do we have a recommendation? Councillor Townend,
I move to receive the report and adopt recommendation number 1, that the position be declared vacant but not be filled.
so moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gordon. Do you wish to speak to it?
I just think given the time this close to the election, I think by the time we get around to that process after the 30 days, I think it just makes sense to leave it vacant for now. We have the county alternate, so we still have our 2 members of town council, so I don't think it's necessary in a short time before the election to fill it.
Seconder, any comments? Anyone else on council? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Next item is open forum. The first 15 minutes of any regular council meeting will be set aside for open forum. Any individual may address council to voice opinion on subjects of municipal concern. Excluding matters subject to public meeting, i.e. under the plan. You can only speak once and for no more than 3 minutes. Notice is hereby provided that under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001 and in accordance with Ontario Municipal Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act, that all information provided for or at a public meeting or consultation or other public process are considered part of the public record. As this is a very full agenda, we will be monitoring the time limits, and at 1 minute, you will receive a warning to allow your final. The order will be those who registered in advance or signed up in person, followed by a raise hand for those attending electronically. Please remain available at the podium when you're completed, should council have any questions. We do have this.
Through you, when council speaks, can you please use the microphone, both for internal and for the virtual?
Bear with us. We've got a lot more technology tonight than we have in the past, and so as you can see, I've missed a couple of things here, and I just talked with it personally. Okay, so we have a list here of ones signed up. Gary Kelly Miller. Could you please come to the podium, state your name and address, and then provide us with your information.
I'm Terry Miller. I live at 4563 Path Road with my wife. I happen to have the largest piece of parcel land abutting to the dog park. And I'd like to bring forward the fact that it wasn't brought forward to us about a month ago. And now, July 5th, you sent something out. July 12th, you had a public meeting in the park, and we were told option 1, 2, or 3. Nobody around the perimeter had any notification of that going on. Prior to the 2018 election, there's a councillor sitting up there right now, 2 weeks before the council meeting, had a conversation with me in the park about an off-leash dog. Nothing went on. This previous March, there was a delegation in the park that my wife was out in the park with, and she asked what they were doing, and they would not identify themselves. What they were doing there, they were going all around the park, pathways and this and that. And I know I went to the public meeting. I want to thank Deputy Mayor for acknowledging her email today. And I just don't think that there's another lady that's done a lot of work on this. She's going to be part of the time to speak. So I'm not going to get, and I just want to, another thing I want to capture too is that some people complained about a trail or walkway not being maintained. I find it, and it's very true, the sign says not maintained in the winter, but it's not maintained all year round. Okay, this morning, 8 o'clock this morning, the Loyalist crews maintained that one. bizarre, don't know. And I've tried making contact with township employees in the last week and a half, and that about potential walkways and stuff like this, because they were a priority. And I got a funny feeling that there's a lot of hide and seek for a grand a week going on. I didn't get too many responses. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could just stay for just a second, I'll just make sure the council, anyone on council have any questions for the presenter. Seeing none, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you bringing it forward. The next is Rick Watson. Sorry, yes.
Through the deputy mayor, Mr. Watson is on as a delegation, so therefore he didn't need to sign into the open forum part.
Okay, Simon, okay. So that'll be up to the delegations. Very well. The next is Ken Bethune. Please come to the podium, state your name and address, and provide us with your information.
Name is Ken Bethune. I live on 11 Terryton Road in Amersfoort. So the issue I'd like to raise is we're part of the infrastructure project this summer and the previous summer, and we have some issues with our driveway, ongoing issue, as well as the shoulder of our road. Our driveway was paved 3 times associated with the infrastructure project. The last time was about 6 to 7 weeks ago. We were away for the day. We came home, our driveway was done. No letter in our mailbox on how to take care of any precautions. Made my way down to the contractor, asked him what we should do. They said, stay off it for 3 days. We stayed off it Wednesday, Thursday. There were posts up and caution tape across it. Up until Friday, they came and took the stakes down, the caution tape indicating we could drive on it. We drove on it, got up the next morning. There were divot marks, tire marks in the driveway. We drove on it for the rest of the weekend. I called Mr. Grattan to come over and have a look. It's pretty shocking to see this kind of marks all over your driveway after it was just paved. We also noticed that instead of just doing the shared portion of the driveway, it went up 24 feet on our part of the driveway as well. Mr. Grattan said that they were scuff marks. They'll go away. So they haven't gone away. In fact, there's more of them. I've interacted with members of the township. We were told that was the industry standard. That's just the way it is. It's absolutely shameful to leave people's driveways in that condition. Mr. Hagedorn was out and Mr. Gordon was out to take a look at it, but we haven't heard back from anyone. That's why I'm here to raise it. We also have a shoulder of our road, one of the main, just in front of our home. It's on a very sharp angle. If the passenger opens the door, there's a good chance they could fall into the ditch. And if the driver opens his door and swings it open, it's going to come back. And my granddaughter opened her door and came back and hit her in the head because it's on such an angle. So it's very dangerous. We have a lot of older people that come visit us. It's an extreme safety hazard. So those are my 2 issues that I'd like to bring to your attention.
Okay, thank you. And if you can just wait a moment, members of council, any questions for the presenter to see? Councilor Gordon?
Just an observation. I visited King's home and pictures as well to share with some of the staff. So I will be doing that with those people.
Okay. After the meeting, will be provided. Okay, thank you. Anything else from members of council? Councilor Porter.
Yes, through your worship, to Ms. McFarland, was actually, I'm not sure who it should go to this question, but were any notices or any advance warning given to the residents prior to their paving of their driveway?
Okay.
I'm trying to turn on my camera, it's not coming on. Okay.
Director's here, and then the time is actually up with the director, if you could just, if he wants to respond to that.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, so Council of Order, this is a capital project, so I will be answering that question. I have Mr. Grattan sitting here with me, and we did provide advance warning, but a care letter as far as how to care for your asphalt, no, we did not.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you speak up, or do you have a microphone you can use?
Yeah, the microphone is on. Can you hear me at all?
I can hear you a little bit, but I would like you to speak louder. I didn't hear part of your answer.
Okay, so yeah, is that better now? Okay, so through you, Mr. Mayor, so an advance letter was provided to the residents to let them know that restoration was going to take place. But how to care for your newly laid asphalt, that was not provided.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for coming forward. And the last one on the list is Ruth Judd. Please just provide your name and address.
Yes, good evening. My name is Ruth Judd. I live at 24 Manitou Crescent on the main drag of town. I'm here actually, and first I wanted to preface something that one of the other speakers mentioned. I am a huge supporter of the dog park. I just want to preface that. But I agree that the communication piece hasn't been ideal. Like, I've been trying to fight to get a dog park for quite some time. And then it's like, whoa, what do you mean? We've got a plan and everything already in place. So I do concur that there hasn't been the best of communication, but I'm thrilled that there is a plan. So so I am a retired teacher. I've been a resident of Amherstfield for the past 22 years. And I remember about 22 years ago when I first moved to Amherstfield, I saw a petition for a dog park at what was then the pet store in Amherstfield. It's no longer a pet store, it's an financial institution. However, there has been a long-standing request to have a dog park in Amherstfield or in Loyalist Township. And I communicated with councillors in the past and Mr. Brzee himself about, can we please make this a priority right from the get-go of the most recent election. And so I have been in communication with Loyalist Township staff regarding a dog park. Ever since this last election, I've been taking photos of dog parks that my dog and I go to. I've been in all the dog parks in Kingston and Rockville and Belleville. The location which has been selected of Lakeview Park, I personally think is an excellent choice. And I concur 100% with all the reasonings that Joe Grattan gave for that location. It really has everything that you would need. I understand that there are residents in Amherstfield who are not happy with that decision. We can't please everybody all the time, and I understand. I also know from the standpoint there might be some concern about noise. Having been in dog parks many, many times, there is not a lot of noise in a dog park. The dog's barking tends to come from homes that the dogs are protecting. I don't think it'll be a noise concern, but I just wanted to say that I'm aware that there are people who are not thrilled with that location, but I think it's wonderful. The most recent design plan for the dog park that I have seen is wonderful. It includes all the must-haves for a great dog park, many that I've identified myself as, again, a frequent dog park user, but it also includes several upgrades. It's not just chain link fencing and a patch of grass. It's really much more than that. And after I saw the updated design plan, which followed a lot of the residents' requests, like the number 3 was the requested one, the updated plan is truly wonderful. And seeing the plan, it actually, I consider more of a beautification. It's not just a simple dog park. It really is going to beautify Lakeview Park as opposed to just be an area where dogs are running around. Something else to consider when you're weighing the pros and cons of, do we go ahead with this dog park or not? Dog parks are not just for dogs. Dogs are for people too. And it's the owners of the dogs who will be coming to the park that they can start to build community. You know, yes, when we walk along and we see our dog and we might chat with people who are walking their dog nearby, but I think providing a community for dog owners is important. My two children are grown. Once upon a time, I used to get together with other parents at playgrounds. Well, we're not going to do that with our dogs. So I think a dog park is really important for the residents and the dogs. I am fully aware personally of the inherent dangers of a dog park. I personally broke my ankle and was off work for 3 months. But those are things that, you know, you have to post the risks. You have to be aware of the potential risks, but I think the pros definitely outweigh them. On that point, obviously signage is really important. People will follow, hopefully. I'm very optimistic that people will be responsible and respectful and follow the rules of the dog park. I did make a suggestion to someone, one of the Loyalist Township folks, that a committee be formed to kind of oversee the dog park, maybe a Facebook, some kind of social media group or a committee to kind of see if everything's working well. And in closing, and I just want to say that as a longtime MRSU resident and a dog owner, I ask that you please carefully consider all the factors in having this dog park approved, and ask that you please approve it, because I think that we need and deserve a dog park in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions for the delegation? Seeing none, thank you.
Okay. Would anyone like my little notes?
You can leave them with the question.
Okay.
That's all the names on the list. I will open it up to the virtual audience. If there's anyone in the virtual audience that wishes to speak, if you use your raise hand feature, we'll bring you into the meeting.
Not seeing anyone, Your Worship.
No raised hands. I'll ask one more time, if anyone in the virtual meeting wishes to speak under the open forum, please use the raise hand feature and we'll bring you into the meeting.
Have Shelby Cramp Newman. I'm not sure whether she's
the delegation.
Yeah, I just don't know if she wants to speak to the dog park.
Okay. Councilor Porter?
Yes, before we move off the public forum, I do have a question for staff, if I may, in relation to some of the speakers' comments. And that question is, can a staff member please advise what public communication process occurred for the dog park?
That item actually is coming up again later in the agenda. There's a report on the dog park. That might be better suited at that time.
Well, a couple of the people speaking said that they didn't feel that there was satisfactory public engagement. So I just wanted to find out what we did as far as, I know 2 dates were mentioned, a public meeting in the park, and notice went out July 5th. I was just wondering if there was any other public engagement that occurred to get as much feedback as possible.
Staff, was there other engagement, public engagement beyond the 2 that were mentioned? Are you aware of? Or?
That's fine, Your Worship. That can wait till later for more of a conversation, if you would like, in the next when it comes up again in the agenda.
I think that would be a better spot for it. We can have a further discussion at that time when it's already on the agenda. Okay, was that all that was in the virtual meeting? Okay. There was one hand that came up, but they're gonna be a delegation later, so I'm assuming they would prefer to have their time slot. Okay, so moving forward, we're on the public meetings. Notice is hereby provided that under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001, and in accordance with Ontario's Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, that all information provided for or at a public meeting, consultation, or other public process are considered part of the public record. Our first public meeting is for Lakeside Gardens, Phase 3, Brookland Fine Homes Limited, an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. And I believe we have a presenter to come in electronically, Latoya Powder. Good evening, Latoya. You have a presentation for us or some information?
I do, and I'm just gonna share my screen. Okay, perfect. Can you see the slide and hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. My name's Latoya Powder. I'm the planning consultant with Brookland Fine Homes. And tonight I'll be presenting our proposal for zoning bylaw and official plan amendments for Lakeside Gardens Phase 3. The presentation should take about 5 to 10 minutes, so I wouldn't want to take too much of your time, and we'd really like to get to the question and answers and hear kind of the feedback on the project. Thank you.
Please proceed.
So to provide some context, the subject site is located north of Imus Drive. And to the north, we have some low density residential. On the east, there's undeveloped lands designated commercial. And on the west, there's phases 1 and 2 of a similar style development. And then on the south, we have Amherst Drive, public park, and low density residential. The site's located along Amherst Drive, and so it's well connected to transit, open space, schools, and other amenities within the area. The primary uses in the area is primarily low density, commercial, and institutional. The proposal, it's for 36 residential dwellings in the form of single-story quads, which is very similar to the project that was recently completed, phases 1 and phase 2 of Lakeside Gardens. So for the next 3 slides, I'll just show architectural styles, renderings, and also floor plans. It's very similar style project to what was shown in phases 1, 2, and 3 in the previous proposal. Reports submitted, typical reports submitted to support the zoning bylaw and official plan amendments, site plan. We did a noise study, stormwater report, planning justification report, retail market study. So we believe that the proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement. It provides efficient use of land. It's also allows for, it's compatible with the adjoining land uses, and it provides alternative forms of housing. So the purpose for the official plan amendment is that the site is currently designated commercial, and we would like to designate it to a medium density residential. And the purpose for the zoning bylaw amendment, it is designated shopping center commercial, and we're requesting to designate it residential type 5, exception 15, which is the similar type of zone that was used for the previous phases 1 and 2. So in conclusion, the zoning bylaw and official plan amendments are consistent with the surrounding land uses. The Loyalist Township official plan and the surrounding the provincial policy statement. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. I would just ask if you could stop sharing your screen so I can see all the council. Thank you. Council, any questions for the presenter before we go to the public meeting? Councilor Gordon. Could you use your mic? Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to check. I saw a drawing of this particular area for the commercial zoning probably 3 or 4 years ago initially. And I just can't recall, but is there, as I recall, there was 2 fairly large buildings that would be suitable for a grocery store, no frills type of operation. And then one not quite as large. Then there was a design for a couple of strip malls. I'm curious, is this rezoning there, is that where the larger ones were going to be proposed for the strip mall? I would hate to see us lose land that we need more businesses, so I would like to see that stay as far as the larger part. That said, seniors housing is a huge consideration for Amherst in particular, so just curious if that was, if you recall from the original plans, maybe that's all changed. It was a few years ago.
Ms. Powder, do you have any comment on that?
I would have to double check the retail study to kind of see where if the strip mall was located in that area. We did a background study just to see kind of if we were to redesignate this area from commercial to residential, how would that kind of balance out the remainder of the commercial in the area. And the study kind of came back saying that it would still be able to support the type of commercial stores that you're speaking of. And it also kind of took into context if there was any future commercial provided in the area. But we'll definitely look into that and provide that in feedback.
Okay, Councilor Gordon. Any other members of council? Councilor Boudreaux.
I noticed on here, it's a significant site larger than, site 1 and 2. Is there going to be a further expansion of more of these, let's call them, I guess, pods for housing as we move east on this total piece of property, or is it just going to be a portion that you're looking to get rezoned and leave another portion as commercial?
I know for now, the intent is to develop the 36 quads. Mr. Armitage hasn't really indicated if he was going to do any further more quads in the area, but I don't believe that he was planning to, and that the phase 3 was going to be kind of the last, wasn't going to eat any more into the commercial.
Thank you.
I'm just looking at the site that you're showing here on a map, and it's asking for the whole thing, and I was just curious if anything's been done. I saw that you had the survey and everything like that. Will you have an idea on how much you'll actually be using and what can be salvaged for commercial?
Ms. Powder, you have a response?
We do know how much we're using. The site area isn't going into the entire commercial space. I was just trying to see if I could pull the map up in front of me.
The other option is if you don't have that readily available, to provide it, and according to if the recommendation is accepted, this would be something all of that information could be provided at that time.
Yeah, we'll definitely have that information to provide to staff.
Okay, thank you. Council, any other questions before I open the public forum? Seeing none. Is there anyone, I'll start in the audience in the chambers. Is there anyone in chambers who wishes to speak to this item? Seeing none. If anyone, I'll do it virtually. If there's anyone in the virtual audience that wishes to speak to this item, please use the raise hand feature to be brought into the meeting. Seeing none. That concludes the public portion of the meeting. Council, we have a report with a recommendation. Do we have a mover? Councilor Porter.
Move to receive the report and adopt the recommendation.
So moved. Seconded by Councilor Goodrick. Any comments, Councilor Porter as mover? Seeing none. Seconder. Anyone else on council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. The second public meeting is being held in accordance with provisions section 3412 of the Planning Act to consider an amendment to the Loyalist Township Zoning Bylaw. The proposed amendment application applies to the property municipally addressed as 1135 County Road 6. Proposed zoning bylaw amendment to the Loyalist Township Zoning Bylaw will rezone the lands from highway commercial zone to highway commercial exception 4. To address performance standards in order to facilitate the expansion of the existing building by 3 additional phases for a new use, being private personal storage for the owner's personal storage use. The existing phase 2 building is also proposed to be used for private and personal storage. Site-specific performance standards are also being proposed to facilitate the addition, including reductions in the rear yard setback, floodplain setback, and parking requirements. And I see Ms. Cynthia Bejich is up on screen, and you have a presentation for us, do you, Cynthia?
Yes, I do.
Please proceed.
Thank you for indicating the nature of the application. Good evening, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Cynthia Bejich, and I'm the agent and planner here on behalf of my client, Hank Dornenkamp, to present the application before you regarding the 2-acre subject property at 1135 Highway 6. The intention is to recognize and expand the existing storage building to allow for personal private storage for the owner as a permitted use. The existing storage building is located directly behind the OPP station, fronting County Road 6. The subject property is designated commercial in the official plan and zoned highway commercial, C2. The intent of the application is to amend the current highway commercial zoning to permit personal private storage and the provisions as noted. The rear yard setback of 6 meters, 10 parking spaces, and a 6-meter floodplain setback to implement the proposed expansion. The property is currently leased to the OPP for an office station and storage facility for vehicles and their equipment. The applicant is requesting to keep personal storage, specifically at this time, to store his licensed antique vehicle collection in a portion of the existing building and in the proposed additions. The OPP will continue to use phase 1 for their own storage needs. We have submitted a concurrent site plan amendment application for the expansion of the storage building in 3 phased additions. We are continuing through that approvals process, and discussions with staff and the CRCA have been positive and support has been received for this development project. For this amendment, we followed staff's direction through a zoning bylaw amendment process, and no concerns have been raised during the circulation of the application. We concur with the staff report and recommendation in front of you, and we thank staff for their detailed review and direction. However, we do think the specificity of the antique vehicles as written in the amending bylaw is too detailed, and simply permitting personal private storage is suitable. The use is compatible with the existing primary land use and complementary to the existing uses in the broad C2 zone, and considered appropriate for this site and with the surrounding neighborhood. We agree with the very supportive staff report, and we request a committee to approve the application. Mr. Dornenkamp is with us tonight as well, and would like to say a few words. So I will turn the floor over to him, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have following. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Cynthia, you're forcing me to speak. I'm not sure if council wants to hear me. So the issue I've had with
Provide your name and address.
Hank Dornenkamp, 588 Scotland Road, Odessa, Ontario.
Thank you.
So it's been a very frustrating issue, but Cynthia made it sound all pretty good. The issue that's now come up, there are so many small details that have been brought up by staff. The last one that just floored me was we want to qualify this as antique car storage. Personal storage isn't good enough. And if we want to go just personal storage, we need to go back to the OPP for a letter saying they're okay with that. I think if we were to go to the Supreme Court of Canada to get a ruling on that, I would agree with staff. But this is just a very simple process as far as I'm concerned. And we're just over policing this. And I don't want to go into my frustration here. I've had enough of it, and I've left it with Cynthia, but I trust that you will use common sense and approve our application. Thank you.
Cynthia, do you have anything more to add to your presentation, or is that complete?
I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of council, any questions for the presenter? Seeing none, I will open it to the public. If anyone in the audience wishes to speak to this item for the application, just raise your hand and you can come to the podium and speak. Seeing none in chambers virtually, if anyone wishes to speak to this, please use the raise hand feature and we electronically will bring you into.
I'm not seeing any raised hands, your worship.
Okay, so no other first speakers to this item. Council, we have heard the comments and we have a recommendation before us with the report. How would council like to proceed? Councilor Bluder? Receiving and adopt the recommendation. Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Gordon. Any comments from the mover?
Not really, no. I do hear Mr. Dornkamp's frustration with the fact that it had to be so specific. General storage, I believe, should just be fine as well.
Okay, thank you. Seconder?
I can say I personally visited the property and I met with our staff and Mr. Dornkamp. I'm very comfortable with the fact that he's a responsible property owner and that he's proven that building's been there for a number of years, and the OPP certainly agrees to be there, and so I wholeheartedly recommend that we approve it.
Thank you. Any other members of council wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. That concludes our public meetings. Next, confirmation of agenda. Any additions or modifications to the agenda from staff? Seeing none. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Moved by Councilor Townend, seconded by Councilor Parks. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof this evening? Seeing none. Delegations and presentations. To begin with, we have 4 delegations on the docket, and so if we want to receive all 4 of them, we would need to waive the procedural by permit. Clerk?
Through your worship, we have received an email from Shelby Cramp Newman, who is experiencing connection issues. So she's going to reschedule for the next meeting for her presentation. So that brings it down 1.
Very good. We don't need a recommendation. We don't need a motion.
There still is 4.
So there's,
Through your worship, there still is 4.
oh, there still is 4, you right? There was 5. Okay, so we do. Counselor Town.
Through your worship, I move that council waive the requirements of section 18.4 of the procedural bylaw to permit more than 3 delegations for the August 8th, 2022 council.
So moved, seconded by Counselor Booger. All those in favor, please raise the hand. Motion is passed. So with Shelby Crampton and John Marshall, petition for Chesterfield Terry Pond Acres Lane project. Please come to the podium, provide your full name and address, and proceed with your presentation.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Mayor and fellow council. My name is John A. Marshall. I reside at 59 Chesterfield Drive, Amherst, Ontario. And as you know, I did hand we went around for the construction and the project that was done through our area of Terryton Lane, Chesterfield, and also down Elm Street. But anyways, you guys have the council does have the petition in front of you. We are very, very distraught, very disappointed, and very frustrated with how the overall project ended up in our area. For one thing, the topsoil that Bar Construction put down, half it was clay and half it was weeds, which they used from the topsoil from the subdivision northwest from the farmland. In fact, for reference, I have 3 doors down from me. We had a corn stalk growing on the side of a road. That's the kind of subsoil they actually used. And so it was not up to standard. And now we're all over areas full of weeds now. Well then, Sharp Landscape, who provided the hydro seed, has been around our area 5 or 6 times already. They put hydro seed where it rains out, it just washes back down into the culverts. Waste of time. The grass will not take, and then the whole Sharp Landscape didn't care what they were doing. They just put it out where they thought it was right. The overall project was handled by engineer Joe Grattan. We feel that Mr. Grattan did not have the proper procedures and the communication with our area. He sent around 4 letters. One stated that was going to save the township $60,000, but now laying sod, especially on the lawns that they had to dig up for the water pipes. We can understand the hydro seed for the gutters, that's fine. Anyways, the lawns are all full of weeds now, and that was his decision, but he did. The other letter, he stated that we promised to reinstate your area the way it was before construction started, and that has not happened. So we, as residents of this area, are asking council to please do some action by maybe lay the sod down and that's the proper sodded areas, and also maybe get rid of the weeds by spraying them. Because our area is a totally disgrace. We're asking this council to make a decision before they disband in the fall for the election as of October. In conclusion, I want to say thanks for having us here, but we want action and we want it soon. We are fully frustrated with the whole of our project. We want our area back the way it should be. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could just wait a minute, I'll just make sure, check with council to see if there's any questions for the delegation.
Oh, one other thing, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank personally for several of the council members for coming around and listening to these concerned residents of the issues that are going on right now. I want to thank those councils very much. Thank you.
And I'll just clarify one item that you mentioned. The hydro seed is actually a policy which was passed by council for construction, so that wasn't a staff decision. It was a policy, but that doesn't say that all policies can't be reviewed to see what changes are needed. So thank you for bringing it forward. I just don't like to, if it was our decision to pass the policy, then I like to make sure people know it was us and not staff decision. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, question of procedure.
Yes.
You mentioned the start of these delegations that you wanted to wait until the end of the delegations to receive the delegates' presentations. I'm just wondering if we have a motion to make. Can we do it now after each delegate's presentation, or did you want to wait till the very end to do motions if there are any?
This item I don't believe is on the agenda further down, so we will take a motion on this one to receive, and if any action is requested by council, then we'll take that motion.
Okay, may I proceed with a motion then?
Please do.
I move that staff meet with the residents or the concerned residents or a group of those residents and come up with a plan to rectify and to address their concerns.
So moved. Seconded by Councilor Booger. Booger, any comments?
Yeah, I was going to initially ask for a report, but then I thought that's going to take forever and then it has to come back to council. And, you know, I'm sure these residents want some action sooner than that. So I thought that the best course would be for staff to meet with them and come up with a plan to rectify, and we can get moving on fixing this as soon as possible.
Seconder? Okay. Anyone else on council? Any comments? I'll just make one comment that I think it probably still will need to come back to council, because if the question is seating, that is a policy that was approved by council. So if policy is review, it would be council that would have to come back to anyway. But meeting and making sure that I would also ask, did you wish to have a report come back to council after they meet with the residents, so the council's kept abreast of the situation?
Well, from what I heard from the delegate, it sounds like there's some options that we could do to rectify it, whether it be spraying for weeds or whatnot. So if it's a matter of a smaller monetary amount, I don't think it has to come back for council. But if it's you know, going to be a matter of removing the hydro seed and putting down the surf or whatever you want to call it, then and it's going to be a high dollar amount, then yes. But I certainly think that staff, if it is a low dollar amount, could address it or lower a dollar amount, I should say.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. So I have the mover and seconder. I've already asked for comments from all council.
Just to go.
Councilor Gordon.
Excuse me, I would wholeheartedly support the fact that we get to the bottom of resolving this as fast as possible. I visited a number of residents in the area, and we should be reminded that those folks, many of them are good, loyal, tax-paying people who've been in that area for a number of years. I think they were more than patient with the situation in terms of our streets are going to be dug up and it's not going to look as nice as it normally would. I think this one got away a little bit with certain aspects of it. Timing, as I understand, there's too much heat and whatnot, but I think the time is now for us to work as quickly as we can to resolve it for the residents. And I'll look forward to the report that comes out after the staff meets with residents. Thanks.
You. Call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. The next delegation is Heather Muir. Could you please come to the podium, provide your name and address, and proceed with your presentation.
My name is Heather Muir. I live at 168 Pruden Crescent in Bath. Slide one, please. Perfect. Thank you. I think we can all agree that time is money. Imagine this, it takes twice as long to shower because the water pressure is so low that you can't get the soap rinsed out of your hair. You fill the tub with only hot water, but by the time it fills, the water is cold. You have to pre-rinse your dishes because the dishwasher no longer has sufficient pressure to function properly. Your dishwasher, washing machine, and water heater take longer to run and fill, costing more in electricity. Watering the vegetable garden takes twice as long. Since these situations use more water, electricity, and time, how is lowering the water pressure in our neighborhood economically or environmentally beneficial? Slide 2. Last March 23rd, without prior notice to their ultimate intent, Loyalist Township employees drastically reduced the water pressure to 127 residences in our neighborhood. After numerous complaints were made to the township offices, a note was delivered to homes on March 25th, apologizing and indicating that this was a permanent reduction of approximately 30%. This is not true. Our actual water pressures have been reduced by 50 to 60%. This note did, however, state that the previous connections to the high pressure water main ran on the high end of allowable pressures based on guidelines from the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, MECP. In other words, the water pressure levels were within the guidelines. Furthermore, notes from the township stated that tests by utility staff have been conducted to ensure system pressures are within accepted parameters. But when Loyalist Township staff came to test our household water pressure, our residents didn't even meet the 50 PSI minimum, and that was at a time of neighborhood low consumption. When a toilet was flushed, the water pressure dropped even further. Loyalist Township staff have made 7 claims that I will now refute. First, pressure ranges are dictated by the MEC under the design guidelines for drinking water systems. Slide 3. Fact, our pressure levels are not within these ranges. We were informed in an email from the chief building official that he had decided under his own authority and jurisdiction to, quote, interpret the minimum for a single dwelling to be the same minimum as for a multiple dwelling, which is 29 PSI. Clearly, the township is not adhering to the MECP government guidelines. Slide 4, please. Second claim, the pressures are within recommended operational range of 50 to 70 PSI. Fact. This is blatantly untrue. Current water pressure levels are measured at the household external faucet do not fall within the MECP recommended guidelines, and some are close to or below the minimum of 40 PSI. Of 19 residences tested, not one met the static minimum of 50 PSI. Third claim, these changes are part of our ongoing effort to reduce water loss. Fact. More water is being used by residences since the low water pressure levels require additional use of water for personal hygiene, household tasks, watering gardens, etc. Fourth claim, it brings pressures in line with other areas of the Bath water distribution system. Fact, as for the township map, the water pressure in our area is significantly less than other areas, and testing at individual homes by the township staff has proven this. If the township is trying to standardize the water levels, why are some areas of Bath provided water at pressures between 69 and 75 PSI, and ours is not equitable? Fifth claim, the consultant hired by Loyalist Township stated, The existing pressure was nearing 100 psi. The intent of the maximum pressure criterion is to avoid damage and mitigate premature failure of household taps, faucets, and hot water tanks subject to consistent high pressure. Fact. Many residents have lived in their homes for 30 plus years and have had no problems, no bursting pipes, and therefore no water waste, no extra maintenance, no extra water treatment chemicals, and no appliance damage. Sixth claim. Township staff claim that the new housing developments will not affect the water pressure in our area, but they also state that when multiple residents in our neighborhood are using water for regular household use, the water pressure decreases. So logically, the addition of 105 to 175 homes will reduce the water pressure in our area. Finally, staff stated that switching the water access line would ensure redundancy and an uninterrupted water supply. On June 14th, our water was once again turned off to allow work on the system. Clearly, this claim is not true. The truth is that this change is increasing water consumption and chemical consumption for water treatment, increasing energy and water costs. This is causing environmental, financial, and mental health hardships for many residents. This is a petition of 116 neighborhood residents. We expect that our water pressure will be reinstated. Thank you. And thanks, Carol Parks, for your support and guidance, and to all of our neighbors here tonight.
I'll ask council, any questions for the delegation tonight? Seeing none, thank you for coming forward and bringing this.
Thank you.
This item is on the agenda at 16.1. Council, how do you want to receive this? Councilor Parks.
Thank you, Deputy or Mayor Hagedorn. I just wanted to thank the delegation for bringing this to the rest of council's attention. We've been dealing with this matter for a few months now, trying to get some resolution to it. And I'll speak to it further as we get into the agenda.
Okay, so are you making?
Just receiving for information, sorry.
Thank you. So moved, seconded by Councilor Blucher. Any further comments, Councilor Parks? No? Councilor Blucher? None? Anyone else? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Next delegation is Nancy Troini. Troini. Okay, well.
It never gets
I apologize.
That's okay.
Please give your name and address and for signature.
Okay, my name is Nancy Chornani and I live at 129 Jordansboro, Anderson. So I'm here about the dog park. So my position is that I'm here representing all the residents that live on the perimeter of Lakeview Park. And I'm just here to represent them and their ideas. So for those who aren't familiar with Lakeview Park, it sits on the north side of Bath Road, just across adjacent from Fairfield Park. It has perimeters, mostly residents, and then Bath Road. It has a beautiful green space, a beautiful children's space, and the pumping station and the culvert that comes between Clareton and Kidd comes right down and enters into that, which is a huge ditch that runs around and goes under Bath Road and out into Lake Ontario. It's a floodplain. It floods. Most of the green space floods. Happens every time it rains. It happens in the spring. So that is our beautiful Lakeview Park. It's used by many. It's inclusive. People, kids come to play soccer and baseball and fly kites and have picnics and walk around and exercise. They use this space. It's a beautiful blank space that can be painted for how people need to use it. So what else? So this is how we found out about the July 14th information session. We looked out our window and saw activity in the park and we went over to see what was going on. So we found out that night that the choice of the park had already been decided. And there was 3 plans that you could pick from, 3 designs of what the dog park would look like. and these were your options. So we were told that it was going to happen. It was a done deal. These are your options. So after speaking to some of my neighbors, I realized that a lot of us were confused. We didn't feel very informed, and many of us weren't very happy about it. So from that, a petition was born. There was 66 signatures on the petition that we collected in 48 hours, and many concerns. And some of the concerns we found were concerned about emergency and township vehicles being able to get in off Bath Road because it's a concealed entrance going in there and going to the pumping station, which happens a lot whenever the power goes out or anything, fire trucks are there. The entrance off Bath Road is dangerous. People often travel on Bath Road faster than the speed limit. And it's obstructed when you come out. It's hard to see left and right. Like when you decide to go, you have to commit. You can't decide to stop. And there's an existing children's space that has been there for many years, and increasing traffic should never be an option when there's children. The green space is a floodplain. And as Alex Cook reported from the CBC on August 19th in 2021, Halifax is now funding a campaign to get people to pick up dog waste because it's contaminating their waters. And I just wonder if being a floodplain, when it floods and it carries the water out to lake unfiltered, you know, how many years will it take where we won't be able to swim at Fairfield Park? Between the geese and the dogs, it won't be a usable space. The township staff cut a whole bunch of trees down in that area around the pumping station years ago, saying that there was too many kids kind of hiding and doing things they shouldn't. So they cleared all that space to make clear lines. So another concern is the kids coming and misusing the space or hiding or doing things they shouldn't. The noise, there is a bylaw which states a 24-hour ban on all barking. And the walkway that comes from Cambridge to the park is steep. It's not very well maintained. And they were worried about congestion because of it already having the park and the pumping house and many other activities. You're just adding one more thing to the space. And the concern was there was no public consultation on the site location. I can't find anywhere on the website or talking to anyone. None of my neighbors knew of any consultation when it came to the site. Apparently there was a committee, but I don't know what that involved. So part of the agenda notes I submitted was the master plan, the Parks and Recreation master plan. And it says on the recommendation 47, I will just highlight because it's a huge document. The involvement of community advocates and or partner organizations should be sought to assist in the site selection, community liaison, and possible fundraising for the site development and the maintenance and monitoring of the off-leash areas. Well, who is the community liaison and why were the residents not contacted? It was really disappointing for me to read Mr. Grattan's staff report, which was submitted tonight, saying communication plan. Throughout the conceptual design of the project, township staff had a robust marketing plan with specific social media outreach, advising residents of the feedback session, informing about the project, and also included in the recreation newsletter as a utility bill insert. The project page has been created in the township website, which includes a project description and the conceptual designs. This site will be updated in results of the public information session and will act as a main channel through which the public can contain information. On July 5th, a letter was sent out to dog owners only regarding the July 14th consultation. And apparently there was postings on social media, but I looked it up and Loyalist Township Facebook has 2,000 followers in a community that has 17,000 residents. And on Instagram, there's 300 followers and 0 posts from Loyalist Township staff. And the Parks and Recreation Master Plan also states that we live in a community with many retirees, many whom I know that don't have a computer. They don't have a cell phone, they have a landline, they get everything by mail. So you need to be inclusive and find ways to reach everyone. The inserts in our water bill, well, I get my water bill by email. So I went back and looked back to April 2021 and there's nothing in any of the newsletters regarding anything about the dog park, whether it was a site or the consultation on the 14th. And I noticed that Mr. Grattan said that 20 residents were at the consultation, and the number seems really low for his robust marketing plan. 5 of the people there were myself, my husband, and a few people that saw what was going on in the park. So there wasn't that many that night. So looking more into the master plan, I just attached a few highlights from it. There was a table in it. Table 3 included that in Loyalist Township dog owners had declined by 44% in 2018, and they recommend that they further undertake public consultation as to the specifics of what they want this dog park to be. So with the general trend towards smaller residential lots, they realize that dog parks are important, but you can argue the same with children. Do you want your child playing baseball in their backyard? Probably not. You'll be replacing your windows. Dog parks and leash-free areas are often drive-to locations, so I don't understand the need to have it right within the residence. Finding an appropriate site for the leash is supported by neighboring residents. That means everyone should be included. And in the document, it said that possible suitable locations should be Centennial Park and Odessa. So I don't know how we ended up at Lakeview. And the site selection exercise could consider safety, adequate setbacks from other park facilities, safety, security of other users in the park with the dog leash, potential impacts of wildlife, habitat, environmentally sensitive areas and adjacent landowners, and the ease of roads, trails, availability on parking site. So further criteria to be developed through consultation with dog owners and residents just brought more questions. So in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, figure 3.8 says that after all the surveying was done, they ranked the importance of what needed to be done. The very first one was walking trails. The second one was a splash pad. And the third one was a dog park. So I'm not sure how we jumped to a dog park without completing the first two. So, so then we went from June 2017, where the master plan, to October 25th, 2021, where staff submitted their staff report to council on that date for option to do the design. So then the next part on the agenda was the few negative things that I pulled from it. So I went into their own document where they describe what a dog park should be, and I highlighted all the things that make Lakeview Park not an appropriate location. So the increase of likelihood of dog fights, risk of people and dog conflicts, potential noise and odor problem, parking congestions, dogs off leash when walking to and from park. It's an unfenced children's space, potential environment and wildlife impacts on the park programming and spread of infectious diseases in dogs between dogs and humans. There is a section in there that says not in my backyard, which sure, that's a lot of us don't want that mentality. But in response to that, the city of Calgary embraces extensive public engagement before any new off-leash areas are approved. So the risks, the municipality in Ontario would like to rely on the legislation such as the Dog Owners Liability Act, which requires the dogs to control, or owners to control their dogs at all time. But the township is ultimately responsible because they are the occupier of the land permitting the existence of the free zone. So child or adult being attacked by an unleashed dog. Planning process. Who should be involved in the process? Engaging the community is essential. Engaging the community in the planning process can increase the level of ownership and care for the dog park, including opportunities for feedback in site selection process. So potential stakeholders in the planning process should include dog owners, local residents, including non-dog owners, community interest groups, dog organization, and animal professionals. And I did speak to the people at both of our animal hospitals in Amherst, and neither one of them were contacted about their opinion or their thoughts. So Psych Considerations, and I'm pulling this right from the document that the staff submitted. Have proximity to compatible uses, activities to other facilities, but not activities that may cause conflict, like BMX track marks, ball areas, or unfenced children playgrounds. The Parks and Recreation Master Plan suggests that the site selection should also consider such factors as location that best serves the demand and potential impacts to wildlife, habitat, environmentally sensitive areas, and adjacent landowners. It says right in their own document that fenced dog parks are not recommended in floodplains and should allow for positive water drainage and not directly into a water source. So careful consideration of proximity to schools, playgrounds, and conflict avoidance. There'll be a number of areas automatically excluded from this consideration in Kingston. There are beaches, environmentally sensitive areas, playgrounds, nursing home, and high residential areas. Successful dog parks, what are they? They have minimal impact, minimal visual impact to off-leash areas are located in larger community parks, and they should be cited as to not impact the character of the overall park. And respectful to neighbors, off-leash areas should be located directly adjacent from residential developments. While it is desirable to have community parks close to housing, there's generally less community tolerance for noise originating from large number of barking dogs. So this is a pilot project, and I think every effort should be made possible to make sure that it's successful. And so all parties should be contributing. And two other points in Mr. Grattan's report that I'd like to address is that he suggested that other suitable areas for large activities could be Fairfield Elementary School. School boards do not allow public on their grounds when school's in session. And Dinosaur Park. This would require our young children going up Kildare and crossing Manitou on their own. And I think it's the human right, it's their human right to have these green spaces and these play spaces in their own backyards. And the township staff creating rules for the park, as Mr. Grattan had said in his document, that they would post the rules. And I feel like they would be followed much like the speed limit rules on Bath Road, unless someone is sitting there. If the police are sitting at Fairfield Park, people do 60. If nobody's sitting there, they do what they want. It would be very similar to that. So posted rules ensure nothing. So the residents of Loyalist Township are asking council to select the third option from the recommendation tonight from staff. At this time, do not move forward with finalizing the design and construction of the dog park. We would like to create a committee and start over. Let's have all the appropriate people involved and find an appropriate location. There is one. My neighbors had some great ideas about where they thought the dog park could go. I don't think anyone's against the dog park. We just need to find a suitable location. So it also states in the Park and Recreation Master Plan, Richard Louve's principles of nature-rich city and his focus on introducing or reintroducing nature into urban areas and the importance of having these nature spaces in our communities for children and adults. So let's be progressive thinkers and build our community. Let's expand ourselves and let the residents choose new sites to develop and not retrofit the existing sites we have. Because I really feel like it would be a huge loss to a large group of people to lose that green space to retrofit it for a smaller group of people.
Thank you for the presentation. I'll just ask council, any questions for the delegation this evening? Seeing none, thank you for bringing it forward. Council, this is later in the agenda. Do we wish to receive it now and act on and have a discussion later in the meeting, or how does council wish to proceed? Councilor Porter.
Move to receive.
So moved, seconded by Councilor Town. Any comments from the mover?
Just that we are going to discuss it or debate it back further down in the agenda. So we'll just receive the delegates with thanks for now.
Thank you. Seconder, further, anyone else on council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Pass. And next one is Rich Watson. Please come up to the podium, state your name and your address and provide us with your information.
Good evening. My name is Rich Watson. I'm a member of the Loyalist Golf Community. We're at 112 Greenhaven Court. And we're submitting a petition tonight to request we're objecting to the installation of a sidewalk on Greenhaven Court. Okay, our basic position is that the proposed plan will encroach on more than 5 meters of our frontage. And the result will be a significant distance from the curb towards our home. And we won't be able to use that available space for parking. And you know, in some cases throughout the Loyalist community, the overhang of vehicles is on the existing sidewalk. So we are concerned about that. The sidewalk, as I mentioned, will be in excess of 5 meters. That'll be, you know, close to 17 feet that we won't be able to use. It should also be noted that in the community, none of the other cul-de-sacs have sidewalks. So there's 3 other sidewalks, Holly Court, Kings Court, Empire Court, and none of them have sidewalks. So we would request the same, you know, treatment. Although at the end of our street, there is a pathway that goes through to the golf club. We have no problem with that. It's just that the sidewalk could not be installed in a consistent manner. And it would go in some cases probably from excess of the 5 meters to go around the lights, to go around some of the hydro installations. So we are concerned about those factors, that the sidewalk would not be installed in a consistent manner throughout the street, throughout the cul-de-sac. And again, because the cul-de-sac in other areas have those sidewalks, we don't think there's a requirement. We have a relatively short street. There's 30 homes, 32 homes to be exact. And I would point out that there's 32 building lots at present. There's 15 homes that are built and occupied. But on the south side where the proposed sidewalks come in, there's only 3 homes right now. And in the state, in this various stage of construction, there's 3 that are built, but the lots haven't been graded. There's no grass or anything. So we would certainly propose that the installation of the sidewalk be canceled, or at least reduced in size in some manner, in some way, that we wouldn't have, you know, the 15 to 16 foot reduction in space from the frontage. The sidewalk is proposed only on the south side of the street of the cul-de-sac. Okay, so we have from the existing 32 lots, there's 15 homes that have been built and are, you know, in various stages, but they are occupied. There's another 17 that are in various stages of completion. However, we have a petition signed by 26 owner occupants. For example, my wife and I have signed, so that would be considered 2 signatures. So we have over 26 out of a potential of, you know, say at this point, maybe 30 residents. So I'd now like to turn over the podium to our neighbor and friend who is in a similar position when he was Paul. This is Paul Sheehan, another resident of the Bath community.
Right. I'll just note that this is one delegation, but if you want to start over.
No,
So.
no, I'm adding.
Protect your name and address.
Yes, thank you.
Speak quickly.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hearing me. My name is Paul Sheehan, 110 Greenhaven. As Mr. Watson said, I'm a neighbor. Just to reiterate on what he was saying with regards to those of us that are affected by the sidewalk, we have 75% representation here tonight of folks on that side. Because that's still under construction, many of the neighbors are not actually taking up residence yet. But those of us that are there are very concerned. Unfortunately, the one gentleman's going to be hugely impacted. It wasn't able to attend here tonight, but he will, without a doubt, not be able to park his truck in the driveway. Just to make a point, I measured off the front of my property, from the front of the home to the curb of the street, measures at 30 feet. And if the sidewalk and boulevard come in at 16 feet, that leaves me obviously with a driveway space of 14 feet. My truck length is 19'4". That means I'm going to be overhanging the sidewalk. I'm going to have to park on the shoulder of the road. I'm going to have to find parking somewhere else other than my own personal property, which is a huge, huge problem for me. Not to mention the fact that the community that we live in is proponently mostly retirees. And so therefore, being able to be ambulatory and move around in their own area is going to be quite a restriction. Probably resulting in taking your vehicle and parking it on the road, which of course makes it extremely dangerous for getting back and forth on the court, getting in and out of your vehicle as you're going by cars that are moving by you, and therefore it becomes a very dangerous situation. Augment that by the fact that the majority of us actually go south in the winter, and now you have sidewalks that will not be shoveled. And that causes even more of a danger for those residents that are staying behind. So to echo the concerns of my neighbor here, we would like to ask that you either modify the bylaw in order to set the sidewalk in place or abolish it completely, because of the fact, as we stated earlier, there are no sidewalks anywhere in that community that are on courts. And I speak specifically about Holly Court, which has no sidewalk at all, and it empties into a playground and park. So if there was going to be a sidewalk anywhere, it should have been going into that particular park and area, and there's nothing there. So I really have to ask, why us? Why would we be the recipient of the sidewalk when nowhere else in the whole community has one? Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And if you just want to remain for a minute, I'll just ask council, are there any questions for the notifications? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Just wanted to present.
And if you want to leave those documents with the clerk, then it can be.
Yeah, there's pictures of the various courts.
Thank you. Council, this is not later on our agenda, so how do we want to state this? Councilor Parks?
I'd like to go forward a motion if you'd like.
Please do.
I'd like to motion to receive the delegation and their report, and also to request a staff report to come back on options to either modify the reduction of the size of the sidewalk or remove it completely from.
So moved, seconded by Councilor Luger. Councilor Parks, any comment further?
No, I think the fact that, as the delegation has said, the other cul-de-sacs don't have that. I'm not sure if there's a specific circumstance because it attaches to the pathway, but I think that's information that needs to come back to council to make an informed decision on this.
Thank you. Seconder, any comment? Seeing none. Anyone else on council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. That concludes our delegations for this evening. For those in the audience, I'll just mention that if you're satisfied with the meeting, if you want to leave, you're welcome to leave. I just ask that you do it quietly. We'll be continuing on with the rest of the agenda. And so if you're going to have discussion, if you can do it after you go out the doors, that makes it a lot easier for us to carry on going forward. You're also very welcome to stay and enjoy the rest of the meeting if you wish. So the next item is the adoption of the minutes. Confirmation of the minutes of the 69th session of the regular council, July 11th, 2022. Council? Councilor Town.
Motion to adopt.
To adopt, so moved, seconded by Councilor Blue. Any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion is passed. Corporate services. Better operate, source protection committee, municipal appointment. Council, any questions for staff? This is just coming back, appointing Councilor Townend as the Western Area Representative. Seeing none, Councilor Booger.
to adopt the recommendations.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Parks. Any further comments? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, raise the hand. Motion is passed. Operating capital and reserve fund status as of June 30th. Any questions for staff from council? Seeing none, we do have a report with the recommendation. How would council like to proceed? Councilor Temple.
Motion to receive and adopt.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Gordon. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. 16.1, Bath East End water pressure concerns. We have a report before us. Council, any questions for staff? Councilor Parks.
Sorry about that. Sorry, I was just looking for my questions. Through you, your worship, in, I guess, to staff in regards to, there is supposed to be some additional information coming back in regards to some of the hydrostatic testing that's being done, or hydraulic testing that's being done. I just wondered if there was a timeline for that, other than being later in August.
So for you, Mayor, Mr. Mayor, yes, there is a public information session that has been scheduled for August 24th. It's a little bit later than what we wanted, but we just received the rest of the hydrostatic test about 10 days ago, and the consultant had needed time to get through that information. So we'll be ready for a public session in Bath on August 24th. In person with the consultant to answer questions from the residents. And the notice of that public information session has been hand delivered to everyone in that area.
Councilor Parks, did that address your question, and or do you have others?
It was pretty garbled. Sorry, I didn't catch, other than it was going to be August the 24th, and you're going to have the consultant there.
Yes, so and I'm just watching the director to make sure I relay it correctly. On August 24th, there'll be a meeting in Bath. The consultant will be there to be able to present all of the findings and answer any questions of any of the residents. And the invitation is being hand delivered to all the residents that are affected. Okay, she's nodding her head. Got it right.
Okay, just another question or follow-up if I can.
Yes, please.
Again, to the director. In regards to the testing that has been done, it's my understanding that that's been done on the fire hydrants in the communities. And I'm just wondering what the steps would be in order to do testing on the individual properties or a select few properties in that community. It seems to be a fairly extensive concern. There's, I think, about 110 people that are affected by this, so it is fairly prevalent as a problem.
So through you, your worship, can you hear me, Councilor Parks? Okay, perfect. So I'm glad you asked that question, because there seems to be a misunderstanding regarding pressures. The pressures that are regulated under the Ministry of Environment, so the range of 50 to 70 PSI, are pressures in the distribution system, not in private plumbing. So these pressures are tested on fire hydrants, and that's what we've done over the last 6 weeks with equipment that we've borrowed from. We've had some of our equipment, but in order to test over 4 different hydrants, we borrowed some equipment. The pressure number that we've seen from the delegation tonight are taken into people's homes. So that's private pressure. So the guideline from the Ministry of Environment does not apply to private plumbing pressure. That falls under the Ontario Building Code. So to answer your question, no, we don't typically go into people's homes to do pressure tests. There could be different reasons why pressures are less in someone's home, in their own plumbing. You hear all the time people that have, filters. They may have different fixtures in there that could affect the plumbing. And we are not regulated to test pressures inside people's homes. So we test in a distribution system. And this is the data that we will be presenting on August 24th. We'll present the information that we retrieve from the data loggers on the hydrants. Did that answer your question?
Okay, Councilor Parks.
Another follow-up. When would those, I guess, I'm not sure if this is would be a motion at some point in time, but that information will come back to council after the public meeting.
It can, if directed to, we
Motion.
can bring all that information back to council.
Okay, and I think I just have one more. Sorry. In regards to the map that was presented both by the delegation, I believe it's in the report, which shows the different pressures within kind of the Bath community. I just wondered, there is quite a difference from 70 PSI down to, 40 or 50 PSI in some of those hydrants. If we're trying to equalize the system, why is there such a difference in the pressure in these different hydrants, I guess would be my question.
That's a good question through you, your worship. Pressure typically is regulated through elevation. So it's basically the elevation between the top of the water in the water tower and where you're standing on the ground. So in the topography in Bath, you're lower in elevation closer to the lake, so you're going to see higher pressure there. Then when you're getting towards Somerset, Purdy, the end of Sir John Johnson, you're higher in elevation. So the difference between the ground and the top of the water and the water tower is less, so you have less pressure there. And that's what is a pressure difference. Mainly it's based on elevation. So you're farther away from the top of the water and the water tower, you have higher pressure than if you're higher in elevation in the village. So that's what the difference is.
I promise this is the last one, sorry. So in order to, I guess some of the options that we could look at would be something like booster pumps in order to push that pressure up higher. I'm just trying to understand if it comes from the water tower, which is up on kind of that higher elevation, I'm not sure how that makes sense to me that the pressure would be less because there's gravity fed, right?
Yes. So, and again, it would be a great session to come on August 24th because our specialists coming in, that's what they do for a living. They can explain all the different pressures. In Bath, a little bit different than Amersview, we do have pressure reducing valves, and it's because some of the areas are fed from the high pressure main, so we have to put a pressure reducing valve on the feed. When you're dealing with pressure reducing valve, you can change the pressure, but when you're making a change in the pressure, you're changing the pressure everywhere in the system because it's all in one system now. Where if you have, if you can imagine 3 different loops, you could change pressure individually for each of these loops, but you can't when you have one big loop. If you make a change in the pressure reducing valve, you are changing it everywhere in the system. So because it works with elevation as well, if you're lower, or you have a greater elevation, you're changing that pressure at the pressure reducing valve. If you already have a higher pressure, you're going to have an even higher pressure. So in order to increase pressure by 10 PSI for the residents in Prune Crescent, Sir John Johnson, you're going to increase the pressure to, if I remember the map, closer to the lake, you were closer to 70. You're going to increase that pressure to 80 in order to increase the pressure for the residents on Prune Crescent. Again, it's easier to explain with maps, and I think the public info session on August 24th would be great.
Okay, Councilor Parks.
I'm good for now.
Okay. Other members of council, any questions? Councilor Porter.
So the meeting at the end of August, you're saying it's just an information session to go over what kind of things, what kind of information are you going to be providing at that meeting?
Okay, so through you, your worship. So at the first information session we provided, there were some questions that were asked of us. One of them was to have a meeting with the consultant so the consultant could explain the hydraulic model that we used in order to make those decisions. There was also, they wanted to know why there's fluctuation in the pressure throughout the day and throughout the weeks. There seemed to be some wide variation there. So we promised to do some testing on hydrants with data loggers, so you can see pressure 24 hours a day for a period of seven days, so we could see the fluctuations, and also have there was another one that we had to answer is to relook at the model and see if there's anything we could do to increase the pressure in one particular area, so in Prunes, Sir John Johnson 30, and how it would affect the rest of the community. So we have answers to these now, and that's why we're going back on August 24th, is to provide that information to residents.
Okay, and just a comment, and just the report that was presented to us tonight infers that there isn't a problem, but clearly that there is. We have a petition, we have many residents that have noticed a difference in their pressure, and so in my mind, we need to find resolution to this, not just provide information.
So through you, your worship, there are problems based on data that was provided from pressures taken inside of people's homes. So I'm not saying that there may be issues with some of the homes, and it could be based on plumbing. From the testing that we did in the distribution system, we are meeting 50 PSI and better in the distribution system. So I'm not sure that I'm not disputing that there is a drop in pressure, and you're going to notice when you're going from 90 PSI to 50 PSI. So if, you know, is that a problem? It's a notice of drop in pressure. We're not disputing that, but what we're saying is that we now have pressure within the Ministry of Environment's guideline.
You. Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, we have a report in front of us with the recommendation. How would council like to proceed? Councilor Parks.
Sorry. Just wanted a motion to receive the report from staff and have staff bring back the recommendations or the discussions or the information that's provided to the residents at the August 24th meeting for further discussion with council and possible recommendations, further recommendations. Clear?
So moved. Seconded by Councilor Ludwig. Any further comments from the mover?
Yes, I know people that live personally in this subdivision. I have family members that live in that subdivision, and from what the other residents have brought forward, I can attest to them not being able to, you know, properly bathe and properly do daily household activities because the water pressure in their homes is so low. So whether or not it's something that's to do with their homes or whether it has to do with the infrastructure, then I think we need to get to the bottom of it.
Thank you. Seconder? No comments? Any other comments from council? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. The next one. Pre-budget approval for the Odessa Water Tower rehabilitation. Council, any questions for staff? Councilor Porter.
Yes, through you, your worship. The rehabilitation of the tower, you're recommending to do the inside and the outside, even though I believe it's the outside that has another 10 years of life to it.
Yes, through you, your worship, we are recommending to do the outside at the same time because it is the type of work that has to be done. We have to take the tower out of service for at least 2 months. Each time we have to do this type of work, and in order to provide pressure in Odessa for the Odessa system, you have to man the plant 24/7, because if the pump goes down with the tower out of commission, there's no pressure in the system. So in order for it's quite extensive work. It presents a lot of risk for the system. So in order to reduce or minimize the risk to the system, we're recommending to do both at the same time, so we don't have to do that again in a 10 years time. The liner should last about 30 to 40 years. So we're just asking to advance it by 10 years. The report, the inspection report is already noting some cracking of the outside structure, and redoing the liner on the outside, or the rehabilitation on the outside would reduce the amount of damage that could occur in the next 10 years.
So follow up, excuse me. So what you're saying is, regardless of whether you're just doing the inside or the outside, it's down for 2 months. Like, it's not, if you're doing just inside, it might be down for 1 month, or the work is performed concurrently and it's going to be down for 2 months, in regardless of how you, whether you do the inside or the outside or both.
And that's yes. The main reason is really to reduce the risk to the system. So whether you're off for a month or you're off for 2 months, even a month, 4 weeks is a long time to go without a tower, and having to be operating the plant 24/7 and making sure that pumps don't fail. You're increasing the risk.
So what is the cost difference, like, between doing just the inside? Like, what is the cost of the inside and the cost of the outside?
I'm gonna have to bring up the report here. Sorry, I just don't have the detail of the.
I guess where I'm going with this is that if the, if there is in fact a 10 more years of life of the outside, and the overall life expectancy is only 30 years, we're kind of jumping the gun by a third of its lifespan. And if for a matter of a couple of months of manpower. So, the cost is much more significant of doing both than just doing what's needed to be done versus the cost of manning some pumps. That becomes questionable in my mind. It's like replacing something that doesn't need to be replaced, you know what I mean, for the sake of doing it. So I would have liked to have seen in the report some sort of cost analysis as to doing it separately.
So from the report, we see actually 300,000 in and 300,000 out. And then you have to add contract and min to that. So if you're doing it together, you have some savings there, because you wouldn't have to reset the contract and do, again, mobilizing all the equipment and immobilizing all the equipment as well. And it's not like there's nothing wrong with the outside liner. Like I was, there is some damages that have to be addressed. And we're just advancing the timeline a little bit.
Oh. You're on mute, Councilor Porter. If you have.
Thank you. So you said 300,000 for the inside and 300,000 for the outside? Is that what
For
you
the
said?
liner itself, and then we have safety, the climbing equipment that has to be replaced at the same time.
Okay, so the total is still the same, 1,050?
Yes. Yeah.
1,050,000, I mean.
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from council or staff? Seeing none, we have a report with the recommendation before us. How does council wish to proceed? Councilor Porter,
I'll move to receive the report and adopt all 3 recommendations.
so moved, seconded by Councilor Townend. Any further comments from the mover?
Yeah, it is a shame that we do have to fix something before it's due to be fixed, but at the same time, I understand the risks and I understand the rationale behind it, and I think we're better safe than sorry at the end of the day.
Thank you. Seconder? Nothing further. Other members of council? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Water intake. Council, any questions for staff? Director.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, if I could, there's a small change that we need to request. The budget transfer being proposed do not reflect that approximately 50% of the project cost will be covered by Correction Services Canada, that for the VAS system it's covered. So in addition to the $30,000 being transferred from the cost center for the booster station reservoir, we only need to transfer $100,000 from the utilities generator, fuel and exhaust system instead of 230. So I just wanted to clarify or make that change before you move to a motion. I could repeat what the revision, what it would sound like, what it would be like.
So the 30,000 stands as it is. The 230,000 is changed to
100,000.
100,000. Okay, so for a total of 130,000.
Yes.
That's
okay.
That's
Thank
in
you.
the right direction.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
We'll take that comment. Council, any questions for staff? Seeing none, we have an amended recommendation. How does council wish to proceed? Councilor Booker?
Receive and adopt the recommendation.
So moved, seconded by Councilor Gordon. Any comments from the mover, seconder, anyone else on council? Seeing none, we'll call a question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion has passed. Results of NRFP for County Road 6 Public Works Garage. Council, any questions for staff? Seeing none, we have a report with a recommendation, and in item 4, there is an or. So just clarify what A or B, what you need, what you wish. Council, how do you wish to proceed? I'll ask a second time. Is there a motion to be made today? Councilor Townend.
Motion to receive the report and adopt recommendations 1 through 4, including A.
A. So moved. Seconded by Councilor Booger. Any comments from the mover? Seconder? Anyone else on council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed.
I did want to speak to it. I'm sorry you didn't see my hand in time.
Oh, sorry, no, I didn't see it.
No, I wasn't voting in favor of it. And I
Okay.
would like to have a recorded vote as well, please.
I'll turn that to the clerk for the recorded vote.
Okay, so this was for. This is for a recorded vote called by Councilor Porter. Councilor Porter?
Well, I'd like to speak to it first, if I may.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I know that this has been on the, I guess, the board for a long time. This came before council a few years ago, and council did deny the expansion due to the cost of doing so. It is extremely expensive, what they're asking for and what we're getting from it. For $4,200,000 and what we're getting in return for that, I don't feel it's good money spent. I also feel that at this time with an outgoing council, we shouldn't be making these types of expenditures, especially when we're asking the public to fund $1.7 million of that. When we know again that there's other priorities that we need to make sure that are addressed. So I will not be supporting this motion, and I urge others to really think twice about supporting it as well. And as I say, we've had many discussions on this in the past, and it has never gone through, mostly because of the costs and what it entails, what the actual construction entails. And I would again ask for a recorded vote.
Okay. Any other comments from council before it goes to vote? Seeing none, I'll pass it over to the clerk to do the recorded vote.
Okay, Councilor Porter?
No.
Councilor Townend?
Yes.
Councilor Booter?
Yes.
Councilor Gordon?
Yes.
Councilor Parks?
No.
And Mayor Hagedorn.
Yes.
That is 1, 2, 3, 4 yeses, 2 noes. It's carried.
Motion is carried.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item, results of tender for 2022-04 Amherst Island flood damage repair. Refreshing, there we go. So council, any questions for staff? Seeing none, we have a report and recommendation, and again, item 5 has an or. How does council wish to proceed? Councilor Townend?
Move to receive the report and adopt recommendations 1 through 5A.
5A, so moved. Seconded by Councilor Porter. Mover, any comments?
Only simply that I'm glad this is coming forward. Obviously, the flood damage from 2017 and 2019 was some time ago, and I know people are anticipating this work getting done, and much my thanks to staff for getting this completed.
Thank you. Seconder, any comment?
Yes, I mean, although I don't like to see spending big dollar amounts, this is something that is, you know, it is damage, it's safety, it's something that has to be done. It's not something that is a want, it's a deed. And I think that is very important to address.
Thank you. Any other members of council? I'd just like to say thank you for finally bringing this forward. It wasn't the staff. It was nothing on staff or council that held it up. There was just one thing after another. They kept it at bay, and so finally we're going to be able to do the repairs. Thank you. So with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion is carried. The results of the public consultation for Amherst View Dog Park. Any questions for staff from council? Councilor Porter.
I guess it's more of a comment. We've heard, and I'm not sure how much.
If we can Can we hold the comments until there's a motion on the floor, please?
Well, I'm going to ask a question.
Okay, proceed with the question.
So I was preceding my question with, anyway, how much public consultation was done and what level of consultation was done?
Director?
So through you, your worship, so I pulled up the Lakeview Dog Park public consultation strategy. And this refers to the concepts to be selected for the design of the park itself, not the location. We've had some online public engagement. It was noted on the infrastructure projects webpage, and we've done some updates to it as we were moving along. There was a news release. It's gone on social media, Facebook, our Facebook event page, and through the recreation newsletter. In person, we've done some resident outreach. So when people have questioned, the project supervisor through email or phone calls have engaged with residents who are asking questions. There's been the in-person public information session on July 14th. I've attended that info session, and I can tell you there was at least 20 people that went through over the 2-hour period. We've had some printed flyers that we distributed at local animal hospitals. And again, this is related to the design of the park and not the location. The electronic signage at the W.J. Anderson was also used to, I believe it was for the public information session for the July 14th. It was inserted in utility bills insert, and a letter went to registered dog tag owners. But what I'd like to note there is it was only sent to the owners who had paid online. So we had email addresses to send to these people. So that's the plan that we had put in place for the design of the dog park.
So as a follow-up question, was there public consultation on location? You mentioned that the consultation was on design. Was there any on location?
So the location, actually, I should let Director McFarland answer that question, because that was done before the design piece was started. So maybe I'll let Lori just answer that question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the location was brought forth in an October council meeting. There were a few different options that were presented to council with reasons, pros and cons for both. Unfortunately, that public consultation did not happen at that time on location.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Councilor Gordon.
Sorry, did I understand that there wasn't public consultation on the site choice? What you just said? Lori?
That is correct. At that when we presented the report to council in October with the different potential locations in the Amherst-View area, that was not included in that report.
Okay. And some questions, and are we going to wait after the motion?
No, if you've got questions.
Well, or I guess something, thoughts, whatever you want.
Thoughts and comments can come after the motion. We're just pressed from time, so I'm trying to keep us moving along. Any other questions for staff? Councilor Porter.
No, I'm sorry, I put my hand up too soon. I do have a motion when you're ready to take one.
Oh, okay, I'll just make sure. Any questions from council to staff? Proceed with the motion, please.
Okay, I move to receive the report and ask staff to put together a resident committee on the dog park. For them, that committee to be comprised of as many residents as practical, and that they bring their recommendations back to council.
So moved, seconded by Councillor Gordon. Mover, any comments?
Yeah, I know it's not going to be an easy process, and I understand that, getting a bunch of residents together for them to sit on the committee, but I think this is one of these things that need to be resident driven and not council driven or not staff driven. So I would like to see it be a project for residents, by residents, and decisions, I guess, recommended at least from the residents, review and discussion on it. And I think we're in no rush to do it. I don't believe there's a rush to do it. So I'd like to see the process involve as many people in the process expanded to make sure that what's going to, a dog park is going to meet the needs, and it's going to be in the proper location that serves the most members and is most beneficial to our community.
Thank you. I see the director's got her hand up. I'll just, some stuff.
Sorry, through you, your worship. I'm sorry, it's probably way out of order, but I just wanted to make sure that we're aware that there is funding for that. So that project is part of a funding application we made for 4 projects. And there's funding available for, we were successful. We have to build the park by the end of, we have to spend that money by the end of March 2023. So I'm on, December 2023. Okay, December 2022.
By the end of this year.
By the end of this year. So I'm wondering if we could move forward with the budget transfers, but still go through the committee and picking locations and.
So you're recommending that, or requesting we could, excuse me, still make sure the funds are available, but do the consultation to make sure that the location is a desired location. Okay. So mover.
Yes, I'll amend my motion to include that.
So amended and seconder, who was the second? Ron, sorry. You're good too? Okay, thank you. Thank you for that input. So mover, do you have anything additional to add then with the amendment being in place?
No.
Okay, seconder?
Just some observations. I actually, I mean, I know that the dog park has been, it's been on the want list for many residents for many years. And I think Ms. Fiona, when she spoke tonight, was certainly not in any way, shape, or form opposing the dog park. It's always about the location, which I agree. She brought up some very valid points and floodplain concerns. And I think our staff did a very good job of trying to get the word out to people with regards to, as I understand, I think there was a recreation newsletter. When there was one in our water bill, then there was social media, and then there was our own webpage. So with that said, I guess moving forward with these situations is, I know it's time sensitive, but to try and actually communicate with the people who literally live on that street and the backyards are adjacent to whatever it is, whether it's a dog park or whatever it is. I'd like to see us somehow get more communication that way, directly with those residents in particular. Whether it's knocking on the door or putting something in the mailbox specifically to that community. So that's just an observation. Anyway.
You,
to the director's point, I was looking for a possible friendly amendment, so we actually put a time constraint on this for committee and everything like that, because I know as council, we're going to be in the talks about it.
sorry, we're going to be in a tough situation very soon. If we could maybe put a time constraint on that this evening, so we can get something together. So we can get an idea of where this might go as a location, because we're going to be in a tough situation in the very near future that if we don't specifically put a time frame to this, we could be in a situation where we lose the funding and we run out of the situation where, I mean, obviously we need to consult people on where the location goes, and I'm 100% for that. I just think if we could get a community group together fairly quickly, we can put a time constraint that on that in the motion, that was all I'm asking for.
Do you have a recommended time frame after the motion?
If we could have by the end of September, there's enough time for 2 to 3 meetings, possibly with the community group, not necessarily council, but like Councilor Gordon said, and Councilor Porter said, it's by the people, for the people. If we could possibly have some people that were very interested in that, doing that, to move forward with this.
Mover, are you acceptable to the friendly amendment?
Yes.
For coming back to council, is it? Or yes, yeah, to have a location determined by the end of September.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that clarified what I was going to ask.
Are you acceptable to the friendly amendment then?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And secretary?
I just have a question for the staff, maybe too far ahead, but have we actually determined how much time we actually have? I know we have till the end of the year, but if they start the park in October, is that too, like, does it take 2 or 3 months? Well, I don't know how long these things take. I understand the create of the fence and lights and stuff, but I'm just curious what the time frame, the completion date would be from start to finish.
So to you, your worship, again, it will depend on the location and how big of a change in design that will be required. We have requested extensions in the past for funding, so it would be something that we would be asking. If we need extensions, it's going to be very tight to have it completed by December for sure. It takes yeah, probably 8 weeks construction. Yeah.
Hey, Councilor Gordon. So are you in agreement with the time frame then? Yep. For an amendment? Thank you. Okay, so any Councilor Parks? Sorry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess maybe I'm not sure if this is another amendment to the motion, but should we be looking to include that in direction to staff to apply for the extension for the funding to see if that's part of that?
So going to the director, will that just be an automatic request if it looks like we can't meet the deadline to try and extend it, or does it need to be a part of the motion?
If you wish, your worship,
okay.
It wouldn't hurt.
Please make it a part of the motion then, so that staff have direction. So are you proposing a friendly amendment on that then, Councilor Park?
Yes.
Okay, Councilor Porter.
Yes.
Accepted, seconder, accepted, okay. Okay, any other friendly amendments, I guess I'll start with. See, none. Okay, any further comments? Councilor Parks.
Hi, I just wanted to, again, I am in support of the dog park. I think the location is not the best location, so I'm glad that we're moving forward with some discussion with the residents of the communities and trying to find a more suitable location.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'll just say that I really do want the dog park to proceed. It's something that has been on the books and been heavily requested by residents, and it's something that is obtainable. And so I would like to see that completed for the residents, but we'll take the steps to make sure that it's in the right location. With that, we'll call a question. All those in favor of the motion, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Thank you. Okay. Next item, Loyalist Estates Phase 10, request to remove holding scene. Council, any questions for staff? Councilor Porter.
So moved.
So moved. Seconded by Councilor Town. Any comments from council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Babcock Mills, Phase 4, request to remove holding symbol. Any comments or any questions? If not, we have a report with recommendation. Do we have a motion? Councilor Town.
Motion to receive and adopt.
Receive and adopt, seconded by Councilor Bugrick. Any comments from council? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Heritage Committee meeting, July 26th. And that comes with one item for approval from council. Councilor Parks.
Are you ready for a motion?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to motion to receive the report and adopt the recommendations.
So moved, seconded by Councilor Town. Any comments from council? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Please raise, motion is passed. Communication for consideration, OEMC 2022 preliminary program. So this is just if anyone wants to attend, just to let the clerk know. So anyone that wants to do that, please let the clerk know as soon as you can. It's coming up quickly. CRCA appointment. This is there is a recommendation in the agenda. How does council wish to proceed? Councilor Porter.
Move to receive and adopt the recommendation.
So moved, seconded by Councilor Town. Any comments from council? Councilor Town.
Only that I definitely obviously support the motion as our current second representative of me is now actually chair of CRCA. So I think it's really important that we submit this.
Absolutely. Any other comments? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is carried. Ontario sheep farmers. Here's for the livestock guardian dog use. Any questions from council? We do have a recommendation in the agenda. How would council like to proceed? Councilor Town.
I move to receive the communication and adopt the recommendations.
So moved, seconded by Councilor Parks. Any comments?
Only that obviously in my constituency, there's several commercial sheep operations. So I think it's definitely something that needs to be considered in any regulation.
Sure. Any other comments? I just concur that I guess this was an item where once I read it, I realized that is an item that should be included or reviewed. Working dogs are important. So with that, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion is carried. Courageous canine advertising rates. We have recommendation before us, and we have supported this in the past. Council, how would you like to proceed? I'll ask again. Is there a motion to be made on this item? Councilor Porter.
Just move to receive.
Move to receive only. Is there a seconder for the motion? Did you say, Councilor Gordon? Any comments from the mover or seconder? Sir?
No.
No? Anyone else on council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Opposed? Motion is carried. Notice of motion. Councilor Townham provided notice of motion on July 11th, 2022 at the regular council meeting. There is a recommendation here. You wish to proceed, Councilor Townham?
Yes, I wish to proceed with the motion.
So moved. Recommendation to request a report from staff pertaining to the recent incidents of theft and vandalism in Amherst-View. Current response is undertaken by our law enforcement. Do we have a seconder for the motion? Councilor Brewer. Councilor Townham, any comments?
Only, as I briefly referred to last time, gave the notice of motion. Obviously, this has been something that's been discussed a lot, particularly on social media, and I think it's important. I know obviously staff have been working with our law enforcement partners ongoing, but it's obviously important to inform the public about what measures are being taken.
Thank you. Seconder, any comment? Anyone else on council? Councilor Porter.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to why we're asking staff for the responses undertaken. Would we not be better off to ask the law enforcement partners directly rather than staff come up with the responses that have been made?
Well, there are avenues to request it from the OPP. I guess I was assuming that staff would be working with the OP to bring back the report, and then if any further direction or any inquiries, we could request the OPP to attend. We could go right to that stage though if someone made that motion, correct? Yes. So yes, we could ask them to be a delegation or to provide information. Otherwise, staff will work with them and relay the information. Does that answer your question, Councilor Porter?
It does answer, so I presume we'll just do a follow-up motion, and will that be accepted to that, or do you want to just include it as a friendly? I'd like to see the OPP respond directly to council and give us their responses and what they've done so far to date.
Point of order.
Okay, yes.
I'm fully prepared to accept that as a friendly amendment. I was under the same understanding as yourself, that if staff had deemed that necessary, but I'm perfectly happy to request that.
I'm just going to look at
Thank you.
Just to make sure that through the notice of motion that is.
Yes, that's fine.
It's fine to make the change. Okay, just want to clarify. So it's been amended, and you, Councilor Townham, was the mover. You were the seconder. Are you acceptable to that? Okay. Any other comments on it then from council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Consent agenda for the yes.
My apologies, I had also a motion, notice of motion.
Sorry, can't hear you.
I missed calling for any other notices of motion, so I'll do that at this time.
Yes, a notice of motion.
Proceed.
To request a staff or corporate staff regarding pricing, availability, and viability for a splash pad in the areas of Odessa, Bath, and Amherst-View.
Notice of motion. We'll be going back at the next meeting. Any other notices of motion or direct motion? Seeing none, thank you. Consent agenda. For the purpose and convenience and for expediting meetings, matters of business that are of repetitive or routine nature are included in the consent agenda, and all such matters of business contained in the consent agenda are voted on. A particular matter of business may be singled out from the consent agenda for debate or for a separate vote upon the request of any council. In the case of a separate vote, the excluded matter of business is severed from the consent agenda. Each and every matter of business contained in the consent agenda is recorded separately in the minutes of the meeting. Are there any items the council wishes to extract from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I have a motion for the consent agenda. Councilor Townend? So moved. Receive and take necessary action. Seconded by Councilor Gordon. Any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion is passed. Communication for information. None, committee minutes. Updates from members appointed to county council, committees, or local boards. Seeing none, members privilege. Anything for members privilege? Councilor Townend.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Through you, I'd like to extend thanks and congratulations to Dan and Joan Simpson for 10 years of the Emerald Music Festival, although they announced this year that it will be the last, as they are wanting to understandably spend their summers doing other things for themselves. But and hopefully, you know, maybe others might take up the torch on the island. But in this case, it's definitely been a big fixture and a jewel in our cultural crown and Loyalist for certain, and they deserve our thanks and appreciation for 10 years of that event.
Yes. Very good. Thank you. That's unfortunate that it's their last year. Any other members privilege? I did have one, but I have no memory right now, so it's done. So we'll carry on and go remember it next time. So we suspended closed session, so we will go back into closed session. Do I need to suspend open to do that then, or just go back to that?
Just a motion to move back into closed session.
Just come on. We can do that. Do I have a motion to go back into closed? Councilor Town, seconded by Councilor Gordon. All in favor? Please raise your hand. Motion is passed. Thank you.
Debbie, is it the same link as the last closed session?